Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make this DIY Dollar Tree paper mache pumpkin floral piece. You'll see. Here we go. First we're going to need this carvable pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. You may or may not want to use your glue gun. I didn't. We're going to use this pad of paper, or you can pick any decorative napkins that you like, some Mod Podge and a sponge brush, an X-Acto knife and a scissor, and then whatever kind of florals you want to do. Now I just want to let you know, this is a select of the variety of fall floral that they had from the Dollar Tree this year, including some burlap ones, which I really thought that I would like to use. But this pumpkin could be whatever you want it to be. It could be a canister, it could be a candy dish, whatever you want it to do. I'm going to teach you how to do the decoupage, and then we're going to do the floral arranging separate. So if you just want to stick tuned for the decoupage part, if not, stay tuned for the entire video, all right? And you can also pick a floral block or beads, whatever you want, if you want something to hold your flowers in. I'm just going to let gravity hold them in. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take our pumpkin, cut off the tag, and then we're going to cut around the top. There is a circle there already. So what you want to do is you want to hold your X-Acto knife or your steak knife at sort of an angle towards the center of the pumpkin. This way, if you do decide to make it a covered candy dish, the lid will go back on without falling in. Okay, but since we're going to take it off and remove it, we're not going to end up using it again. You could do whatever you want. So then what I did was I stabbed a pencil in the top, or you can use a skewer or a chopstick, and that's just to hold it so that we could spray paint it. And spray painting is an option that I want to show you guys. Spray painting on the styrofoam gives it sort of a pumpkin-y texture is what I thought, not so smooth and shiny like it's fake. But you could also go ahead and spray and paint it with white acrylic paint if you want to as well. So I wanted to show you that once it's dry, you could take the top off. You can also decoupage the cover if you want. That's another option as well. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to decoupage the base of the pumpkin. And what I've decided to use was in that pad of paper that looks like barn wood, excuse me. I decided to use the red ones. Just in my vision, I had it's a very autumn like red, and I was thinking about doing one of the other two sort of farmhouse boards, but the picture of the green went the other direction, so it wasn't going to go from the top to the bottom of the pumpkin, but I might use them for another project. So I want to show you, we're just using Mod Podge, and the trick with using paper mache and regular paper, regular weight paper, is water. So what I did was I cut a strip of paper just on the other side of the seam of the barn board. You can do whatever you want. Some people just rip them. If you do rip them, realize that the edge of the white paper is going to show. And then what I just did was I squeezed some Mod Podge on the pumpkin, wet the sponge, wet the paper, and just did it just like that. It was paper mache that we learned when we were in kindergarten, so it's sort of like the same sort of thing. All right, and I just repeated all the way around the pumpkin. I just made sure that the picture that had the seam of the barn board seam was the barn board seam was on top. So basically, when I went to go put the next layer on top, you could see that the seam was something you'd see. And remember, because this is sort of straight edges and a round pumpkin with round edges, you're going to have to work it a little bit. I did find as I was going along with this particular paper that the longer I let it soak, the better it was, the better it took the shape of the pumpkin. So as you see, as we're going to go on, that towards the end, I soak a whole bunch of paper at once. Just be mindful that they will stick together and, make it a tiny bit more difficult to take apart. And also be mindful, if you haven't paper mache in a long time, that the paper can rip. So you want to be as delicate as possible with it, okay? Especially if you end up using napkins. If you use napkins, you're not going to want to wet them. Please don't wet them if they're napkins. But I have paper mache napkins on lanterns before, and I'll link that tutorial in the description box down below so that you can see how to decoupage with napkins. All right? So I have taken a paint bottle and I've turned it upside down. Now the pumpkin upside down on the paint bottle to keep it drying. And if you notice, my table is such a mess. But the great thing about Mod Podge is as long as it's still wet, it's very clean-upable. Yeah, you can clean it up really easy because it's water-based. All right. Once it dries is when you have to worry about it. So you can see here that I've just decided to go ahead and I do a few pieces, strips at a time. I still cut them on the same way with the same lines. And I also took a tiny half strip and I put it on the bottom just to cover where it didn't cover, even though you're never going to see the bottom because that's going to stand up on the pumpkin. All right, so I've just taken, a wet paper towel with some wet paper towel, and then I came back with some Windex just to clean up the area. Like I said, if you clean it up sooner, then that is absolutely no problem. I didn't need to protect my surface at all. And now I'm just going to let it dry overnight. You don't need to let it dry overnight. It's just, that's when I continued with the project, okay? All right, so the next day we came back, and here is our dried pumpkin. And you'll see the paper right there pulled away, separated from itself, and there's a little bit of white pumpkin. That does not bother me. If it bothers you, you can always put another piece of paper on it. You could fill it in with a black or colored marker, whatever your preference is. But to me, it just makes it look homemade, which is farmhouse style anyway. So I've picked the, since I went with the red pumpkin, I've picked a lot of the natural and yellow colored flowers, and I'm going to use leaves that have natural and red leaves in them. So what I've decided first was, when I took a floral class from 1-800-Flowers back in the day, they said don't start with your flowers, which a lot of people teach you to start with your flowers and then fill in with your greens. The lady who taught us say you start with your base of greens and then you go and you add your pretty flowers on top of it. So that's what I'm teaching you guys today. What I have here is the bunch of leaves, autumn leaves from the Dollar Tree that have burlap leaves in them. And this is, I had two different bunches, one that had more natural and one that had more red. I went ahead and I decided to go with the red. If I wanted the pumpkin to stand out, we could skip this leaf layer altogether. But I really wanted to showcase the leaves more than anything. The pumpkin is just an accent, okay? So I've just spread everything out and made it almost like a spider web that hangs over. I've bent the stem under so that it would not be so long. But do you see that the weight of these leaves is actually what's going to keep this arrangement in the bottom of the flower pot. Now the flower pot itself is very light. So if your kid comes along and knocks it over, it'll probably knock it over. So if you have dogs or kids, you might want to weight it down with some Dollar Tree rocks or Dollar Tree glass marbles, or even, because even if you used foam down there, they could still knock it over. But if you need to weigh it down, then you go ahead and think about that. All right, so here I want to show you what I've decided to do. This hydrangea bush I've done in other DIYs, where I've taken the bunches off and I've kind of glued them together so that they make that hydrangea snowball look. But what I'm doing here is I want to show you, I've taken off the leaves and the blossoms, and I'm cutting all of their wires down about an inch or an inch and a half to where their wires are all glued together. And then I'm sticking the leaves and the blossoms back on. So this is just a shortcut way of making your hydrangea look more natural, because a hydrangea bunch is more clustered together than when you buy them at the Dollar Tree. Okay, and since we don't need them to be very long, they're not going in a tall arrangement, this was just a great way to try to make them so that we can use them easier. Okay? And I'm sorry, I know it's going high speed, but you guys get the gist. For those of you who don't know, if you've never worked with flowers from the Dollar Tree or otherwise, artificial flowers are usually just a blossom with a little plastic piece on the bottom that sticks on the wire. And you can take them on and off. So whether you got them from the Dollar Tree or Michael's or Walmart, wherever, then it's going to be the same way. All right? And this one I wanted to show you just another alternate method. Was I'm just taking off the blossoms. I pushed the leaves all the way down to the stems, and I'm just going to cut the stems about that 1 inch away from where they join, or 1 inch over the leaves. And this is fun because these little stems go everywhere. It's like spend the rest of the night trying to find the 10 stems that you shot across the kitchen. But like I said, these ones slip right back on. And the hydrangea are really cool. They sort of, instead of just having like a little tube of plastic at the end of their blossoms, they have like a cap on their tube. So you can't push them all the way down even if you wanted to, without cutting them anyway. Okay. So I took some of the ivory colored non-burlap ones and a set of ivory colored burlap ones. And what I'm doing is I'm taking, there you go. I got the two blossoms. So they're the same but different. All right. And then the other thing I wanted to show you too was, what I really wanted to show you guys was at the Dollar Tree, you can get a bunch of flowers. And the bunches of flowers that they make at the Dollar Tree almost always have two tall ones in the middle, surrounded by three shorter ones around the outside. And because most all of the blossoms, all of the flowers at the Dollar Tree have the heads that can pop off, you know, you can interchange them. So you could take the one bouquet of flowers and you can make it, say you want the flowers to be tall on the outside and the leaves to be short around the out. I'm sorry, the flowers to be tall in the middle and the leaves to be shorter on the outside, or different flowers to be shorter on the outside. So you can take the one bouquet or two bouquets and make one pretty bouquet out of it. Okay, so now I'm just contemplating, do I want to stick any of those ivory leaves in here? Nah. But I think I want these feathers and this grass. I think I'm going to do 2 feathers and 2 grass. No, you know what? I think what I've decided to do here was, I have originally cut down the yellow sunflowers, but I think I'm going to replace them with the ivory sunflowers. And instead of cutting the ivory sunflowers, I'm just going to change the heads on the stems. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So, I did really like the way that the natural looking flowers all, complemented each other. All right. So you see, I've just taken the little stems that I had off of the sunflowers that I cut, and I'm changing the heads out instead of cutting all new stems. And I'm just going to put the yellow heads right on the other long stems that are still in the bouquet. So now that I've decided that I like the natural sunflowers better, I'm going to add the feathers. And for those of you who haven't seen these at your Dollar Tree yet, it's basically stalks of dry grass, and they're these fake feathers. They're made out of nylon or polyester, and they look like real quail feathers, which are really pretty. And what they are is the grass. We talked about the wire stem that comes on the bunch. The grass is wrapped around the wire stem, so you could slide it up and down, and the wire stem is actually the feather. So what I'm doing is I'm clipping off there the stem with the feather and the grass, and I'm just inserting the 2 of them randomly throughout my flowers, and that was it. So I hope you really like this tutorial. There's a better shot of the pumpkin. Here is the entire arrangement. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and share it with friends and family or anybody you know who'd be interested in either learning how to decoupage the pumpkin or make an autumn arrangement. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and join the family and ring that little notification bell, and YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a video. So as always, you guys take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. Bye.